right. Hey, folks. Good morning. Let's see. Are we right place, right time? Looks like it. Let me check my signal and see if we're live. We're going to do some artwork. It's going to take a minute here for me to prep stuff. So if you want to skip ahead a minute in time, I'll catch up with you there. Are we looking over here? Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Mic check, 1. Are we looking over here? That sounds pretty good. All right. Sounds like our volume's coming okay. I don't want to make it completely silent because this is sometimes hearing myself is sometimes the only way for me to confirm that I'm live. I'm having some internet stability issues apparently today, so I'm not sure how that's all going to shake out. But let's see. Okay, everything's looking good so far. Clickety clickety, clickety clack, clickety clack. Okay, yeah, I'm doing some social media posting real quickie here while we get started. I just don't have like an intro song or anything like that, so. I'll just say, hey, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing games, I illustrate them, and I publish them online, and I am creating content for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, 2024. We're designing an adventure for Eberron called Crystals of Mabar. You can see the cover here on screen. It's for characters levels 7 to 8, like four 8th level characters and 5 7th level characters in Dungeons & Dragons 5e need virtually the identical amount of experience points in combat encounters and for a total amount of experience gained. So if you're looking at making a mid-level adventure for 5e that you can throw a ton of crap at the characters, but they haven't gotten so powerful yet that that you can't contain or corral them, 7th and 8th level is a really great sweet spot because your characters have access to 4th level spells if they're full casters. They can take a lot of damage if they're marshals and half casters. So you can beat them up a lot and throw a pretty wide variety of CR creatures at them, and they'll have a decent chance of being able to move from fight to fight. So. Here on YouTube real quick, please like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications when we're live in the future. Here's the full playlist of all 400 some odd episodes. Here's my Discord community if you want to drop in, say hi, and sharpen your knives with us. Patreon support for those that care to throw me a buck. Here's a stack of books that I've made on the DMsGuild. They all have free previews for you guys to explore. So if you want to see the kind of work that I do in general, check that stuff out. If you think it's cool or can improve your campaign, consider making a purchase to earn my undying gratitude. So thank you. All right, into it. Here's a book cover. We made this around... Oh, I got to get rid of my mouse and jump back onto my pen. We made this around episode 40. This is the cover. Everything that's on here is related to, like, there's 6 different plot hooks. So we have 6 different characters represented, exploring the dungeon from different directions. In the flooded fort, there's a tunnel that leads down. In the cemetery, there's a secret passage that leads down. There's literally an elevator shaft and a spiral stair from the gatehouse that leads down. And all these things lead into the underground facility where the ritual is taking place. This is a very simplified narrative map of basically what happens. You come in from the forest, through one of these dungeon locations into the underground dungeon to find the nexus where necromancers are obviously doing weird crystal stuff. And this is a spoiler alert for those that would care to play, but for DMs, there is the ritual forms this chrysalis around the ritual caster while the manifest zone that's being produced is sustained. Here's that foggy effect from the manifest zone. And zooming out, this chrysalis becomes if the caster survives the process, the manifest zone permanizes, and the ritual caster becomes a Yugoloth demon. So this is the symbol of Mabar. This is the moon of Cypherus, which is connected to the plane of Mabar, and it's called the artifact that's being used to empower this is a steel iron ball called the Eye of Mabar. Crystals of Mabar is the whole purpose. The soil gets depleted and creates these crystals, like Folgers crystals, as dirt throughout the whole Manifest Zone region that can be harvested, powdered, and used in an alchemical process to create basically empowered material components for... I'm going to fix my screen there. For darkness and necromancy rituals, plus anything that's inside of the Manifest Zone if it's dead, it naturally becomes animated and an independently moving undead that you cannot control. So it's pretty fun. All right, so we had a bunch of people play. We had maybe 20 some odd playtesters. We had 3 different, including myself, 3 DMs that ran the thing. We got a lot of great feedback, which is basically watch your hordes. And now that we have the new CR, we're waiting for the new monster manual to come out to see how we need to recalibrate stuff. But me at my own personal table, we've been running 3rd and 4th level adventures lately, and the CR system that's in the DMG, at least with the monsters that are in the monster manual, are panning out really, really nicely. So we should be dropping into higher level adventures at my home table, or rather my playtesting table, to experiment just the impact of CRs from level 3 to 10 over the next few months. And yeah, good times. So let's get back into it. We've made a bunch of undead. Let me get rid of that fog so we can all see each other's feet here. Yugoloth in the background, rising above the rest. The Horde in the background there. Get rid of background fog, which you can't see. And then we're going to drop away the other undead bop that we've made. I'm going to leave number 1 here for reference sake. But down here, we're working on this undead. I like his skull being repositioned. I'm going to bring it down just a smidge here so it fits on his shoulders properly. That feels about right. Let's see. Yeah, let's bond it together for the lulz, and let's get back into it. So we'll be working on this for the next hour or so. Hold on real quick. I'm starting to overheat. I've got a heater going here. I don't have any firewood currently, sadly. I'm going to take a sip of water. Keep my whistle wet. Good. And let's get back into it. So, yeah, I'll be here for about an hour or so. I log on in the morning, Monday through Friday, to continue working on whatever art is that we got going. This is my primary project right now. So, in the mornings, it becomes my primary project because it's... There we go. Because it is it's the next thing that we're going to publish, basically. So we typically have multiple projects. The royal we, of course. I've typically got multiple projects going at the same time. Hold on. I smudge it. Still waking up. There's a lot of bulk on that shoulder. What will that be? Yeah, so I'm working on multiple projects right now. We've got some Spelljammer subclasses. We're also designing we have in the Spelljammer. It's linked down below. You can check out the free preview. There is the Spelljammer book that I created has squadron and fleet combat mechanics, as well as fightercraft mechanics, so characters can operate small-scale ships. Like the vessels are like 100+ feet in size, but fightercraft are anywhere from 10 to 50 feet in size, typically. Like a Star Wars TIE fighter is like 40 feet across, and no, it's 35. Yeah, it's 35 feet across, and an X-wing is 40 feet long. So like that's the scale that you can get with fightercraft. But obviously with fantasy and less engine stuff required, you can have something as small as 10 feet. If that's how you want to build, like a rocket cycle, can be size large. And so we have a full combat system that's in the Spelljammer book, how to operate and fly ships using your normal rounds of combat and movement, using 5e mechanics, and that it works incredibly well. But because we have that minimal scale for ships in the system, we can do things like make ships shaped like people, so you're flying a Gundam instead of a fighter craft. And now we just need to extract the rules and drop them into a book, and then take into account that war golems can pick up and wield weapons and tools and stuff like that. So we're one of the things that's in the works that we'll be continuing to stream is production of those war golems that can be piloted creating encounters for them to fit in practically, and the complementary content that goes with it is to have kaiju large-scale monsters. I have a video. I don't do a lot of like posted videos, but one of them that I have that's in my videos links here on the channel is for a Space Kraken Mega Kaiju, showing how you can create massive scale creatures to battle spelljammers and fleets of ships. So we'll be leaning into those mechanics to extract them as a separate document from the Spelljammer book in general. As basically Spelljammer monsters. I think we're going to call it Spelljammer Monsters and Machines. I think that feels okay. But that's another work in progress. Yeah, this guy's looking pretty ragged right now, which is intentional. You want your undead to look ragged when they're, exhuming themselves from the ground. But I also want to make sure that the rhymes have reasons. Yeah, it feels pretty good. I like that. Is my music going? For some reason, there's something happened to Epidemic that it's just not auto-playing my music selection, and I don't know why. I can't find any reason why the auto cue and play functions aren't working on there. But if Epidemic continues to not perform properly, I might just switch over to Spotify. I think Spotify has a lot going on. Like I was watching Indestructible's channel last week, and I think they have Black Sabbath now. Like Epidemic doesn't have Black Sabbath. I should really consider changing. So I probably need to troll the music that I'm using, or troll the content that I've made and extract any conversations that I want from it to perpetuate my efforts. Kind of ran out of steam on that conversation there, don't mind me. I'll be back tonight. Like I said, I stream Monday through Friday in the morning. I also have a lunchtime design stream. Like yesterday was great. We were working on the Ranger, Beastmaster, and Paladin for the martial power system that we've been developing to give martial characters as much variety, resources, and options of preparation that full casters have, but scaled for martial abuse. So that's been working out really, really nicely. I'm thoroughly enjoying that system, and that's the playtesting that we've been doing for our on my Discord channel. On Monday nights, we run a mega dungeon, like Beck Me style mega dungeon, to as a playtest environment for the mechanics that we've been building for martial powers to make sure that they click. We had previously done a hex crawl for level 5 and 6, and that went nicely. And I used we used martial powers in my own personal home campaign from level 16 to 20, and that was good enough for us to. That was where it started. Like if I start developing these like this martial magic system, how well does that play? And so we had an arcane trickster, a paladin, and a ranger utilizing the system, while we had a full casting moon druid working with the team for healing and support, and it went really, really well. So they played nicely together, and it was encouraging enough as a system to go ahead and try to develop the rest of it. And so a lot of stuff that plays well at high levels, because you can abuse the hell out of high level characters in D&D 5e, like really just punish them, and they can bounce back from virtually anything. But you have to be able to take that like maximum curve and bring it down to like the first tier of adventuring, like level 1 to 4, and then 5 to 11, and then 11 to 16, and then 17 to 20 is basically like the 4 tiers of play. Even though there's 5 points where you gain proficiency bonuses, the game is in general structured in 4 tiers. So that alone is a miscommunication that I don't think anyone has really been spending any time talking about in the community, where there's 5 proficiency bonuses but only 4 tiers of play. There's a miscommunication there. There is something. The mechanics of the game is 5, but the game is expressed in 3, and I think the expression of those tiers of play, I need to double check, but I'm pretty sure that's just player-based nomenclature, like the armchair white room designers structure it in that way. But maybe there's actual like language devoted to that in the DMG 5e in 2014 that I've forgotten about, that is referring to the tiers of play. But that just seems like a simplification of how to operate. But there's something off about it. It doesn't feel right, because the way that I design campaigns is in those proficiency bands, that you start with a +2 bonus at first, a +3 at 5th, a +4 at 9th, a +5 at 13th, and a +6 at 17th. And your characters continue to ramp up in time with those. Like 1 to 4 is first and second level spells. 5 to 8 is third and fourth level spells. 9 through 13 is 5th and 6th level spells, and then 13 to yeah, 9 to 12 is 5th and 6th, and then 13 to 16 is 7th and 8th, and then 17th plus is 9th level spells. So there's a disparage there in design intent, like with the martial power, with the spell, the color mana spell point variant rules that we create on DMsGuild. We separate Wish from 9th levels to be something you can do at 19th level as a full caster, as like 10th level spells. So if your character multi-class is out of full casting after 17th level, you don't get access to Wish, or like that 10th level spell slot that allows you to, depending on what full cast, like each full casting, with the system that we built, each full casting class, including Warlock, has a means of being able to alter or distort reality by utilizing Wish as the spell Wish can, like, duplicate any lower level effect. That comes in at 19th level as like a 10th level spell slot, but at 20th level as a capstone feature to all full casters in one way or one narrative or another is that at 20th level you can start making epic wishes, which is basically opening a dialogue with your DM as a player through your character, interacting like either with their god or their otherworldly patron, or the spirits of nature, or just through research in the case of the wizard, or through just sheer act of will in the case of sorcerers and bards, to alter the fabric of reality. So you offer to the DM, the player offers, or rather asks, this is what I want to do with my epic wishing capabilities, and so you'll say, like, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and the DM can then counter with a proposal of, I'll give you that, but it'll cost you X amount of like spell slots, or like X amount of mana that you'll permanently lose. And if it's important enough to you as a character, or like through your player through the character for the player, you can sacrifice virtually, like you can sacrifice your entire mana pool, so you no longer can do any magic other than cantrips, in exchange to making this thing happen without any kind of hijinks. You know, wishing is classic for its like screwing people over with caveat language and stuff like that. So you can, you know, like the DM's like, yeah, this is going to cost, like, if a wizard has 89 spell slots at 20th level, this will cost you 40 of them. And you'll lose all your high magic, and you can keep like a portion of your low magic. And if the player isn't willing to pay that, but they still want to roll their dice on what it is, then the DM is open to hijinks. And like, if you're only willing to offer 20 spell slots and they want 40, it's like, well, you're going to get half of what you wanted, and it's up to the DM to decide how that half feels. So a lot of fun opportunity there to basically end a camp, like that ends your character's career. So like that's something that is appropriate for you to do at 20th level, because how else are you going to like capstone your character and shut down the campaign? Well, let's make a lasting impact. Let's make a change to the world that kind of concludes what the entire campaign was about. Like for example, a druid could beseech the spirits of nature to collapse the cavern of Menzo Baranzan, where the like capital of Dro are at, and kill all of them to rid the world of them as a menace. Like that's a 20th level capstone sort of horrible thing to do. And of course, you know, the clerics of Loth may be able to save some of them, but that's like, that sounds so crazy that Loth would probably let it go through just for the lulz. Her name's Lolth for a reason, right? It's Lolth, like literally she's lol. So she will fuck you over if she thinks it's funny. So that could stick. But you know, that's just like one example. An example of a campaign capstone at play in one of the Eberron campaigns. I run campaigns from level 1 to 20 in about 250 hours, and I'm in my 4th campaign right now in the Eberron setting using 5th edition rules. And one of the campaigns, there was a priest of knowledge. Coincidentally enough, with the new Unearthed Arcana that came out from Wizards, they have the priest of knowledge. The domain of knowledge is now on the table. But using the old 2014 rules, we had a Warforged priest of knowledge, and that capstone was to awaken all of the Warforged to remember what they're like. They all have captured spirits inside of their frames. That's how you make the Warforged do. They're basically like really complicated. Like golems have elemental spirits trapped inside of them, and there's rudimentary levels of intelligence to be able to order those constructs around. And it's the spirit of the elemental inside of them that allows that to happen. Well, Warforged are more advanced, and in our campaign. In our Eberron, the Warforged are actually the souls of the Siren Empire. The way that we ran it was the sire, SCYRE, Siren, sire, but the Siren Empire was a bunch of artificers. Like that was their primary gig. They were primarily artificers. And when I'm having a hell of a time with the foreshortening on the shields, that's why I'm sitting here scraping at it, trying to figure that curve out. But the Sirens, they were just master architects and the most advanced, along with the gnomes. They were the most advanced artificer culture on Eberron since the Giants. And they discovered that if they feed human souls into the shell of a machine, they could create Warforged. But what they didn't know is that the souls that they're harvesting to put into the bodies are actually the dead souls of sire warlocks that worship this god of machines that is like it's like a greater demon. And so it's an otherworldly patron that kind of like I guess like with like this happened before Critical Role was a thing, but very much like Percy, the gunsmith with its demon patron teaching it technology. It's the same idea. So I'm not going to sue Matt Mercer for stealing the idea, but good ideas are good ideas universally. So cheers. But yeah, so another way that plays out is that the God of Machine feeds these souls that it's collected back into these Warforged to like live again without knowing who they were. So this demon is like recycling souls to gain more power. Because when the way that I run the mechanics is that when you start a character at first level as a Warlock, they only have 1 point of mana. And when they scale up to 20th level, they have their pack mana of 20 mana, like a Warlock, like a monk gains focus points 1 per level. With Point Warlocks, and there's Point Warlocks are linked down below. You can check it out. They gain short rest mana, pact magic, 1 point per level from 1 to 20, and then they gain the Mystic Arcanum starting at level 11 through 20. They end up stacking 40 additional mana. So they have 40 long rest mana and 20 short rest mana at 20th level. And the Abraxas was the name of the otherworldly patron. I think that was his name, Abraxas. I think that's right. I have to double check it. But the idea there is that as you gain, and gods work this way too, like clerics and druids as well. As their characters gain more mana and gaining levels, when their souls are recycled and returned to like druid to the spirit world, and clerics to their god's home world in the plains, the god harvests that mana and basically adds it to the total amount of mana that it has. It uses the souls of humans or just mortals. It just uses mortal souls to gain levels, to accumulate mana that then gets added, 100 mana at a time over the course of a 20 level. Like if you have a first level cleric that dies and it gets claimed by its god, that's 1 extra point of mana. So 1 million first level clerics that live and die under the worship of that god, that god now accumulatively has 1 million mana to like cast wish with, to like what I was saying earlier, that you can permanently sacrifice mana to alter the reality and change the world as you please. Well, gods can do that, but they have like hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of points of mana to spend to make those wishes happen. So all that gods are greater beings that have figured out how to harvest mana off of living creatures so that they can perform magic so massive that no one can practically counter it. For you to break an epic wish, you have to expend more mana than was spent to make the wish in the first place. So gods can undo what you do, which is like why I was talking about Loth letting something stick, because if you try to drop in like mass destruction into her place, she could, and you only have like say 100 mana to do it with, she can decide to spend 101 points of mana and say nope, and then your wish doesn't stick. So that's why you have the conversation with your DM about like what's it going to take to make this stick. If I want to make this happen, then you can have that conversation about, well, Loth's not going to let that happen. So you could attempt to spend all of your mana, and we'll give you a version of it, but you're going to have to figure out a way to get around Loth, and that could become your final mission to figure out. Excuse me, I got to adjust my seat. There we go. So you would then have to figure out how can we get around Loth's being able to override the spell effect. And when you do, that's a decent way to end your campaign. That bone was off a touch. Skeletons need thigh gaps. They're weird if they don't have them, or they've got a lot of flesh going if they don't. we go. That's starting to feel better. That hip is still looking really weird. There, that is better. There we go. Get that. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. Like that. It's probably better. Cool. Okay, and now we have. Yeah, that feels right. Sorry, something's fidgeting in my brain right now. I need to go back to number 3 here quickly. Good. That's good. Okay, we can stitch that back up and drop that in there. Get those knobby knees going here. And when we drop our fog back in, we should be able to hide the feet. Yep. Like that. And we're going to do individual layers of fog, concealing different body parts inside this. But there's a thick, and we'll also have to drop in a greenish color effect, like in the book cover, a fog like that. But that's looking pretty good, so I'm happy so far. Shield's just about right, so I can move that out of the way. That's looking good. I can bond all of this together again. Merge layers. Bop, bop. Get those out of the way. Big old heavy sword. Sure, let's get this guy out of the way. I feel like we need to... bring that... Ah, that's right. Nice job, Kearney. Good job. Merge that down. Let's calm that curve a little bit. Nice. Cool. That feels really good. And now we can start grabbing color reference from over here. Another layer. Start dropping this in. I don't want to overwork the shadow over on this side. How's that sitting? Right, I need to work on that forearm. God, this is some pretty rough art. Yeah, I do the color layers separately from the line art, and then I blend them together to sort of merge it into a single image. But I did not do my due diligence with this piece. I just wanted to mess around with it and didn't want to have to worry about the line art. But every time I skip every time I decide not to sweat the details on the line art before bonding it to the color art and start blending like I'm doing right now, like literally, like this is the act of blending right here. I always regret it, and I need to learn that lesson and figure out how to make it stick, because I end up wasting more time than I need to on a particular asset that didn't necessarily need to take as long as it did, because I didn't take the care to do the line art the way that it needs to be done to look the way that I want it to look. Blah. And so I have to, like I'm doing right now on the fly, kind of figure out how to make it work, which is fine. It's a viable means of painting, to just put form and blobs of ink and then shape it properly. That's perfectly relevant, but or valid rather. But it's not how I've done the majority of the skeletons on the page already. So like, why am I deciding to change it? Well, I changed it because the muse had me change it, and I don't know why she decided to do what she did, but she did it. Like, this hand is just a lump right now. Like, that is not well formed. But we're bashing it into shape. We'll get there. There. Of course, all of this is going to get concealed by its neighbor, so it's not that critical, but I want to make sure I at least do it right, because it's relevant. 7:20 here in Seattle. I've got another 40 minutes left to go. Nice. That's going to work. All right, this is turning out okay. Let's switch to my cloud brush so we can more easily blend these things together. There we go. Much easier blending. Guitar pick is good at pushing pixels around the page, but this cloud brush that we're using now is really good at blending it in. So I can switch between those two smudge brushes and be able to get a lot of good texture and form shading, and it feels pretty good. So I'm going to be back on tonight, later on, in probably about 10 hours or so. I'll be back on for a few hours to, I'm not sure what we're going to work on. The things we have on our plate currently are Spelljammer Monsters and Machines. I might work on Spelljammer Monsters and Machines, actually. There's a project. There's a YouTube creator project that's coming up, which is going to be dungeon, like 5-room dungeon designs for like system neutral. That's going to be happening in May. That I'm going to do like an actual like published video for. I don't do a lot of published videos. Most of my stuff is just streaming like this and me yammering at you guys. But in May we're going to do a structured video about a 5-room dungeon, and I'm slow baking that one right now. There's also in April, ahead of that is going to be last year there was Kraken Week, so I did like the Space Kraken Mega Kaiju design video, and this year the collective has decided to do dragons instead of krakens. So I'm waiting for the promo stuff for that to happen, but that block of videos is going to happen in April, and so I'm going to participate in that as well. And we're going to look at Dragonflight Pursuit Mechanics, which is a piece, which is an aspect of the Spelljammer book. Again, another Spelljammer idea. An aspect of scaling mechanics so that like your characters are on the back of dragons as dragon riders at the 5-foot scale, but then you're engaging in combat with different dragons, like gold dragon riders against like a flock of red dragons, for instance, and so using the fleet pursuit mechanics that we have in the Spelljammer book down below, we can depict overland pursuit movement at a grid of 50 and 500 foot scales. So you can have a much larger battle that the dragons are moving across, engaging with each other, while the dragon riders themselves are on the backs of dragons at the 5-foot scale. So when you pan out, you're looking at like 20, 30-foot dragons inside of a 50-foot square that are engaging and operating with other dragons that are typically inside of a 50-foot scale as well. And hey, are these undead? Yeah, these are. Hey, Claudia. Here, I'll show you the full gist, because they're all in separate layers. So I'll just collapse this one real quick. Bop, 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 bop. Okay, so here's our blank spot. First off, this is an adventure that we're writing from a bar. For the Eberron campaign setting in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. This is a 16:9 format page that will fit on a tablet, I use a 30-inch desktop computer here, or you can use a phone. So the 16:9 format, vertically like this, you can see all three of these columns at the same time, but each column is 10 by 5.5 inches wide, which is also a 16:9 ratio. So you can see the full page this way, or a single column at a time in the vertical format. So under that premise, this is a 5.5 inch wide space, and this is like a 5 by 5, 5.5 inch wide, 4 inch tall space, and then we have our frame that's going around our navigation bar down here to move to different parts of the adventure. But having said that, here's your front corner, which is the closest to the camera. And then we have our front line of undead that we're working on right now. And there's fog that conceals their feet, because there's this fog effect that moves with them. And then the second line, or the back line here, is all the extra undead that we're filling in. And then there's a Yugoloth commander that's basically running the show. And I can actually change the position of him just a smidge. So we'll end up taking all these like white spaces between these and then blend those down into darkness. We're going to add like a puke green sort of fog effect, like putrid gas, like mustard gas. But yeah, so these are all Karnath undead, but they're not. This is because the last war ended, they decommissioned their military, but this Yugoloth is basically exhuming corpses or using its demonic energy to raise the dead from a forgotten cemetery of Karnath soldiers that got overgrown by the Karnwood like maybe 300 years ago. So it's like long and forgotten, but the adventure takes place in that area. So there's the adventure itself is about Emerald Claw cultists discovering a ritual using an artifact that can artificially create a manifest zone to the plane of Mabar that they're using to basically create undead and generate wealth. Because if you have the artifact that's used, the Eye of Mabar, is an artifact. So it's like ungodly power, right? So the way that it works is that when you perform a ritual with the artifact, it creates a manifest zone where there should not be one. So that gets on the radar of the gatekeeper druids that get pissed off at all things unnatural involving planar activity. So there's 6 different plot hooks in the adventure, and the ones involving the gatekeepers are that gatekeeper dreamers, different type of like diviners, discover or sense that there's a plane, that there's a manifest zone to Mabar being generated in Karnwood, and it shouldn't be there. It's out of orbit. So they send a team in to discover how is it happening and who's doing it, and quite frankly, kill everyone that's capable of doing that, and find out how they were doing it and put an end to it. So when the team discovers the artifact that's being used, you can decide to kill all the necromancer cultists if you want. You're encouraged to do so by your druid handler. But then you don't know about the artifact. So then the question is, do we want to destroy it, or do we want to take it back to the to the gatekeepers? And on the rest of this page here, you can see we have the Eye of Mabar, which is connected to Mabar, the Endless Night, and then which is just a steel ball with an eye sketched into it, basically. But then you have the rest of these artifacts here, and each one of them are connected to a different plane, like the scales of Donvi, the perfect order, right? The Carolyn of Dalcor, so Dalcor, the region of dreams. Carolyn is like a what are those things? A piano with pipes. I'm blanking on the word for some reason. But instead of pipes making sounds, it's bells that get rung when you hit the keyboard keys. So it's a different type of instrument, but it's a real thing. And then like you have all these different artifacts. So we're creating all these artifacts that each of them can have their own ritual that can generate a plane, that can generate a manifest zone to their corresponding plane. So this is a 7th level adventure, and one of the potential plots that you can run with this, if you really want to run with it, is that at 7th level, you get the eye, and then in any order, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th level, and by the time you have all 13 artifacts assembled, your 20th level can be, you can reshape the fabric of reality and rearrange the planes if you want to. But that's certainly what the druids are thinking about doing. So a side plot, like a nefarious plot, can be, well, the druid, the gatekeepers are actually trying to gather these artifacts to be able to recreate reality, to keep it safer, and there you go. That's one of the things. So, or take it for yourself. So it's an actual artifact, and we have the mechanics for what the artifact is inside of it. So, like, one of the plot hooks is that you are hired by Aether Academy to collect the artifact so they can put it in their archives and research it. A third plot hook is that the 12, a mysterious organization of supervillain arch-wizards, recruit you as a gopher, basically. Go collect this artifact for us. In fact, figure out what's going on. The actual story is that the Emerald Claw cultists that are generating the ritual and using the eye, they knew about it because Emerald Claw at the time were military officers in Karnath. So Aether Academy is a military wizard school for necromancy. Emerald Claw cultists that had military power at the time would, smart ones, like the one in this adventure, his name is Solzu. Solzu was smart and gathered information about, like, what's all the cool hidden toys inside of Aether Academy, because he had the foresight of recognizing that this war is going to end and chances are he's going to become really unpopular. So when that happened, he pulled his strings and stole the artifact from Aether Academy and knew about the ritual because he spent time on leave researching these things at the academy. So when time came, he looted the artifact, he took the ritual, he knows of a location where he can do this in the Carnwood. He knows that there's a buried, forgotten military cemetery there that he could use as troop fodder to be able to generate, defenses before anyone was able to stop him from completing the ritual. And he got funded to do all of this by the 12. So as soon as he gets down into the laboratory, the research facility where this is being performed underground, when he starts the ritual, he gets cut off, and he has to continue performing the ritual, otherwise it'll kill him. So he's kind of stuck, and he's got his own adventuring party of allies from the Emerald Cult, or the Emerald Claw Cult, that work with him, and they're there to help make sure things go smoothly. But one of them, Karen, she hates Solzu. Karen's a bitch. So she knows what's happening and realizes that if she doesn't help him during the ritual, it's going to end up killing him. But he's stuck. So she's been messing around with the timing of things to weaken him, knowing that if he can keep the ritual going until the last moment, she could kill him and then step in and complete it herself. At least that's what she thinks she can do. The artifact itself has other plans, but that's what they're attempting to do while this is happening. So when that happens, Solzu stops communicating with the 12. And Karen is only partially aware of his funding of the 12. So she's gumming things up. And so when the 12 realizes that there's that their planned communications are missing, they figure that the cultists are trying to betray them and double cross them. So your team gets hired by the 12 to go in as a wet work team, kill them all, and establish control so that they can send in new specialists to pick up where the cultists were stopped, so that they can continue and just have full control over it without having to worry about Solzu anymore. He's kind of a brat, so they're happy that he's going to get killed. So when they double cross them, that's all the excuse that the 12 need to send a team in to kill everyone. And they already have their own specialists lined up. There's a teleportation circle inside of the research facility that the Emerald Claw cultists disabled when they got in there, so that they can control the point of access to the place, which is already double-crossing the 12. So the mission that your characters have specifically by the 12 is to reactivate the teleportation circle. They'll send in specialists. But if you happen to kill all the necromancers along the way, okay. It saves them the effort. So there's a lot of latitude that your characters have in that version of the adventure. And there's 6 different versions. The default plot hook is that villagers that have been farming in the area since the end of the last war, Karrnath needs bodies, not blades. So they are more than happy to have anybody that wants to settle land and start farming so there's food for growing Karrnath citizens. And so when these remote farmers start having people go missing from their community unexpectedly, and there's weirdness happening in the Carnwood, go figure, there's weirdness happening in the Carnwood. Everyone knows it's haunted, but the farmland that's close to the forest was open because no one else is crazy enough to take it, except for displaced Syrian refugees and homeless Karrnath soldiers that have been forced into retirement. They got to do something, so they decide to take this unclaimed land. They're happy to claim it and work the land because they know no one's going to bug them if they do. Unfortunately, somebody's messing with them because people keep missing. Well, it's the Emerald Claw cultists. They're stealing people to sacrifice them for the ritual. And because it sounds very timely, but we've been working on this. I'm on episode 400. I've been working on this for 2 years. This is before refugees became a hot topic in the real world. And technically we started designing the adventure before even COVID hit. So it's actually been 3 years that my team's been working on this and play testing it and blah, blah, blah. It's a little excessive for an adventure, I know, but it's the first one I did. So I wanted to make sure I did it right. But there's while you're in the manifest zone, it's poison gas. Like the fog is poisonous. So you have to wear a face mask all the time. It's this is feeling very timely. It's obnoxious, but we just went with it knowing that the times would change. So here we are through, and now it was set up that there's all these refugee communities from the last war that are trying to rebuild their lives as farmers and leave me alone. So the Emerald Claw cultists know that these are basically undocumented farms that are attempting to establish themselves as legitimate by producing food. And so they're easy to take advantage of. So they're stealing people from the sacrifice for the ritual to keep the ritual going, to keep powering the manifest zone to Mabar. And so they beseech Fort Bastion, which is like the central command for outriding regional rangers and sheriffs. There's these undocumented people that are complaining that there's a problem. It's probably nothing, but it'd be stupid for us to ignore it. So your team gets hired and then deputized to investigate the area. So when you show up, your characters have the authority to do whatever you want, you feel is correct to be able to protect Karrnath in general, and these refugee communities that are reporting these problems. Once you realize this is actually a problem, your team has the ability to resolve it any way that they want. And when you discover that there's necromancers raising dead, it escalates. So the team is fighting necromancers without knowing actually what's going on. And if the DM wants to, you can drop that wet work team, and the 12 can be present. The barbarians from the gatekeepers can be present, but they're either opposing or potential allies with you as you go through the adventure. You can if you lose characters, you can be well, I'm just going to play one of the gatekeeper barbarians now, working with the team. And each plot hook provides different magic items and different levels of information about what's going on inside of the story, and drops you in at different points. So you can run it in different ways, which is great if you're a professional DM. It's built for professional DMs to enjoy running the adventure over and over again, because you can build it from different perspectives. And every time you run it from a different perspective, as a DM, you understand and know how to run the story better. So if it becomes your default, forgive my hubris, but if it becomes your default adventure to run as a professional DM, if people want to play in Eberron, you becoming more proficient with the adventure allows you to mix and match events inside of the adventure together in a more dynamic in a more dynamic sense, so you can have the world reacting to what your characters do more actively. That's a real long ramble. Forgive me, but that's the idea. Gas masks. yeah. I know, right? Yeah, it's got like those plague masks, during the Black Plague, how they'd have like those big masks full of posy, so that you wouldn't have to smell the stench of death. Well, the Plain of Mabar is literally just a stench of death. So there's all sorts of exotic plants that grow inside of the manifest zone, and that's the point. They want these exotic plants to grow, so that they have a bunch of they basically lured away a bunch of alchemists and artificers from Aether Academy to like work on this project. And so all these unusual, unnatural, otherworldly plants are growing inside of the manifest zone that if you harvest them, you can convert in, like there's like a mushroom that if you turn it into this oil, you can wipe it on your eyes and get dark vision until you take a short or long rest. I think it lasts an hour, or when you take a short rest, whichever is first. There's fungus that can be brewed into antitoxins. The actual soil itself becomes Mabar crystals, which can be powdered and used as material components for darkness rituals, or like sprinkling on dead people and casting the animate dead spell. Like a 5-foot square of the soil from Mabar is worth like 1,000 gold pieces, and it's a 5-mile manifest zone. There's literally millions of gold worth of alchemical resources that are here that they're learning how to develop into a production pipeline. There's poisons that you can make. There's all sorts of cool alchemical stuff that's going on inside of the facility, while in the restricted area, Solzu's actually performing the ritual. And these stupid, students are like, yeah, this place is a nightmare, but it's the knowledge that we're gaining here, we're set for life. And they're all going to get killed when the 12 comes through too. They just don't know it. They think it's a valid operation being conducted by Aether Academy. One of the things that we talk about in the appendix here is like blending plot hooks. And one of the ways that you can blend the plot hook is that Solzu's convinced these students that he's actually one of the funders of Aether Academy, and recruits them for a special project. And the 12 have fake identities set up all throughout Aether Academy as like moles to gain access to information, and the plot hook taps into that, so that if you want to trick your characters, you could have them think that they're working for Aether Academy when they're actually working for the 12. And so when they go back to Aether Academy to get paid, they're accused of stealing the artifact to get set up. And so that can become an extension of the adventure. If you want to make it a campaign, you can extend the adventure where you're being blamed for this manifest zone stuff happening, and you have to redeem your name. So that puts you that puts you against the 12 right away, and the Emerald Claw, because if your characters are responsible for killing Solzu, you've killed one of their own. Now it's their blood pact to kill you. So now the whole Blood of Vol and Emerald Claw hate you, and the 12 hate you, and your characters are 8th level. So you could realize the 12 are trying to assemble all of these artifacts to change the world, and now you have to race against them to try to collect the artifacts for yourself, and you can curve that out into a full 20 level campaign starting at level 7 with this. So and that's all stuff that we talk about inside the adventure, like expanding, continuing the adventure and continuing the campaign are subsections inside the appendices. So there's a lot of stuff going on, but it's like an adventure. It's like an adventure that's structured with your characters having the authority to go in and making decisions that they want. And then there's variations of the adventure, and then there's blending those variants together. So it basically becomes a toolkit of how to construct different types of stories out of this as kind of a method, like its own little thing. There's there's adventures that take place in the Carnwood, and so I've built out a toolkit like generic forest floor maps, and there's like 15 different tree tokens and tree top tokens with like branches that you can climb up into, and like fallen logs and thicket bushes and clusters of rocks as basically like a 16 asset like build your own forest encounter sort of thing. And then the manifest zone itself is also a toolkit of different assets. So you can like assemble your own forests, and you can assemble your own swamps and manifest zone stuff. So it's not only like the adventure is a toolkit, but all the assets for building maps inside of it is also assets. So that if you pick it up, you've got all these like tools that are given to you for you to be able to build out adventures in the Carnwood if you want to extend that, like the fighting Eidolon and stuff like that. A lot of different things you can play with. Anyway, I'm ranting, but that's what I do. I rant. I rant on this channel, so if this is, I'll continue building this illustration by illustration until it's completed, and once I do, it'll be on the DMsGuild, and there's a ton of books I have down below of other books that I've made on the DMsGuild already, and they all have free previews, and this will also have a free preview because I want people to be able to see the content. Because if I talk about it in a conversation, I want to be able to say, hey, yeah, go to page 45 of this, and you can see how I'm manipulating, like how I'm presenting like this forest idea or like whatever. I want it to be something that can be referenced for people in conversations. And if I paywall it and you can't see it unless you buy it, that's a dick move. I can't say, yeah, go check this thing out because like I wanted to make a point about like page 65. There's like we're talking about like maybe shifting focus from a combat encounter to a social encounter, and like here's how I walk through those steps. And so look at page 65. But if page 65 isn't available for you to look at, how am I supposed to use that as a viable example? So I make all the stuff that I make, all the stuff that I publish on DMsGuild. I always make free previews so that people can, look before they buy. So they buy it because they like it, not because they want to see if they like it. That's such a dick move. So I don't know if I like your stuff or not. We'll buy it and find out. I was like, nope, that doesn't feel true. that doesn't feel like a real customer-friendly thing to do. I'd rather you see what it is and decide that it's not for you and walk away than for you to throw your money at something that you don't know. So this isn't my day job. I've got a great day job. I do this for the art and for the glory. For the glory. And so, the end. Sorry, that was a ramble. But yeah, this is really built with the intention for professional DMs to have something that they will enjoy going back to and running over and over again. Like Curse of Strahd is a fun campaign to run because it's so malleable. It's basically a toolkit, hex crawl-ish sort of campaign, and it offers a ton of options for a DM to be able to change how it runs. And so if you're a professional DM and you want to mix things up, you can just switch out what type of encounters you're planning on having in there. But there's nothing like that for Eberron. So I figured, well, if there isn't, why don't I try? And this is what we came up with. So, the end. But I like Karrnath. I like making adventures for Karrnath. It's such a just interesting mix of culture and history and debatably bad decisions made for the protection of their citizens. It's such a great place to look at just adventure ideas in general. Like your characters get deputized because there's such a huge problem with halflings in the Talenta Plains migrating into the Karrnath Heartland, that it's not safe for farming homesteads to really be operating in the southern reaches. That's where the dinosaur riders are at, and they will come and eat you if you don't stay out of their way. There's velociraptors in my cornfields. What the fuck am I supposed to do about that? That's a huge problem. We need help. So the sheriffs, the outriders, are fighting Talenta halflings on the back of on the back of dinosaurs while the rangers are riding horses trying to fight these guys in the plains. And it's like, we don't have time for these little refugee camps. There's an onslaught of halflings that are attacking our communities. That's a bigger priority. So they hire your team to take care of this BS stuff. And if you do a good job and you decide to lean into it, then you can start having, like, that becomes that you can get permanently deputized to become sheriffs, and now you have basically you can turn this fortress into your bastion, and there's mercenaries that you run into during the course of the campaign that you can ally with, that can become hirelings to help you police the area to keep it safe from further harassment. So there's a ton of opportunities to be able to expand out and make it an ongoing campaign that you could have a lot of fun with if you enjoy the Karnath environment. But there's so many corners of Eberron that you can run different types of campaigns. It's crazy. It is crazy. So, but I love Eberron. You're new to D&D? Oh, wow. Well, thanks a lot. I do a lot of stuff. I'm proud to earn you. Me ranting like this is what I do a lot. In the mornings, I stream like this in the mornings, Monday through Friday, for about an hour or so. Like I've got like maybe 10 minutes left, and I got to bounce for the day. But then I also like build stuff too, and my evening and lunchtime design streams are like, what books am I working on, and let's build a book. So I like the shtick is from ideation to publication. I run through the whole process of how to build a book. Like, what does it take to make PDFs? Like, yeah, you can. Some of my streams are about like designing game mechanics. Others are about like doing page layouts on stuff. It just depends on what I'm working on. So I'm always working on a number of different types of books. Because if I only work on one book, I'll burn out. And it kills production. So I have to work on more than one book at a time, which means that like when this one is done, I've got like 3 or 4 other books that move forward in production to become my primary project. So as I finish a primary project, I crack open a new one and keep moving through stuff, doing all the artwork here. Some layouts are pretty boring to watch, so I only occasionally do, like when something interesting crops up in layouts that's worth looking at, I'll do a stream about that. But artwork, I like doing art. Well, I was a professional, quote unquote professional. I was a freelance illustrator in the RPG industry in the 90s and early 2000s. And I kept at that for a while, but not everyone makes a living at it, and I was not one that was able to figure out how to make a living out of it. So instead, I shifted focus to making books instead that I could illustrate. So I don't really sell art or do commissions very much. Occasionally I do, like maybe 1 or 2 a year, but for the most part, I just illustrate my own books. And instead, I focus on the ideas for the books, and then illustrate them. And so I can make the books look exactly the way that I want to, depicting exactly what I want to depict, and be able to do my own layouts. I can start shaping the pages to work with the artwork, so the whole book becomes a holistic piece of art that you can enjoy and go through. In the meantime, it's providing cool mechanical ideas or different ways to play your game or adventures to play with. So, and I'm only 50, so I've probably got another 20 years I can do this, and I've only been doing it for 7. So, 6-7 years from now, I'm going to be like really good at this. So, as long as God keeps me on the planet, I'm going to keep doing this stuff. So, yeah, stick around. Check out what you like or not. Drop in when you want. I've got a link to my Discord community down below. It's not super active yet. I just started it this year. So it's just but I do play testing out of that. So like the Spelljammer stuff that I've been building, I'll need to do play testing for the Monsters and Machines book, and like the Magic the Gathering color mana system that I built. That's still being, that I'm still creating content for that. That gets we're play testing that on Monday nights right now, and yada 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 yada. Oh, right on, man. Appreciate your content. Thanks. That's exactly. Well, badass. Glad to be here. But yeah, I've been painting for so long that I don't have to really think while I paint. Unless I run into a problem, I don't have to think while I'm painting. So I can just, draw stuff. And I've been DMing since 1987. So I've got about almost 40 years underneath my belt of running all, various editions of D&D and other games. So I've certainly got a lot of opinions about my experiences as DMing, and occasionally I'll spill into a topic about it, and then I'll go on like a 20-minute rant about like a hex crawl or something like that, and just whatever comes up, I'll just speak my mind about it and until my muse shuts me up and has me shift topic. So proud to have you. Glad you're interested. Thank you. I'm gonna merge this down so I can fatigue the shield a little bit more here, and we'll bite into it here like that. I think my music stopped. Yep. But I only got about 5 minutes left this morning. But I'm going to be back on tonight. I don't know exactly what book I'm going to work on tonight. I'm thinking I'm going to work on Spelljammer stuff tonight. Oh, that's right. I was going to do. There's a Dragon Week event that's coming up in April that I've dedicated to making like an actual like video. Like if you check my videos on my channel, I've got a bunch of topics of conversation about Spelljammer specifically, and I'm going to do a video about how to increase the scale of combat from the 5-foot scale to the 50 or 500-foot scale, and my demonstration of that is going to be basically dragons fighting on the wing, like while they're in flight across landscape. How you can have how you can actually narrate using combat mechanics of 5e to narrate that chase scene while you're chasing dragons, trying to bring them down. It'll be a whole thing. So I think I'm going to start working on that tonight. At least that's what my gut tells me we're going to do, because that needs to be something I pay attention to if I'm going to get it done in time for April. I need to start planning for it now. And like I said, I do basically like all my shit on stream, so everyone can tag along in that creation process. And then once we get done with all the assets and ideation of it in the evening, I'll like spend a Saturday or something and actually crack out the video. And then in April, once Dragon Week begins, I'll publish it along with like Pointy Hat and Ginny D and Nerd Immersion and whoever else is involved. I'm nothing compared to them. But they have these yearly events as an opportunity to help unite the community of creators and elevate small fries like me to have an opportunity to get in front of audiences that might not otherwise ever see me. So it was a massive blessing to me last year when I did the Mega Kraken, the Kaiju Kraken encounter for Spelljammer, and I'm hoping that I'll have another really cool video to share with people this year too. And then I'm doing a system neutral dungeon in May as part of another similar community effort. So I got to be careful about how many community efforts I do per year, because they are a production and they take time to do. But I'm still growing, so they're completely worth it to me to have the opportunity to rub elbows with larger streams. But then I'm rambling, and that's something that I do. Right on, man. Well, cool. Be welcome to ask questions and stuff down there. It's still a growing community, so there's not a lot. It's basically just a gathering point for my playtesters to hang out at, and for me to basically share ideas when something comes to mind, and just a place for me to post videos and shit. So yeah, you're welcome. You're very, very welcome to be there. And if your Monday nights are free, I am running a mega dungeon for 4th level characters right now to playtest the Martial Powers magic system that I've been designing. There's a lot to it, but if you're looking to join a game and you don't mind experimental content with a very niche topic of conversation, we need another body to help stabilize the team, because we've been floating between 2 or 3 people a night, and I really want to have at least 4 every session. So if you're available, I'll also be doing some playtesting on Saturday mornings, probably in another month or two, to start playtesting the Dragonflight encounter idea, and I'll be doing Spelljammer stuff for the mecha Spelljammer mecha mechanics that we're developing, like Gundams and Escaflowne, or like Robotech, Veritech ships and stuff like that. We're taking the Spelljammer mechanics that I already built and expanding that to incorporate war golems or like
50-foot robots and stuff, kind of like with Doom, the new Doom Dark Ages book that game that's coming out, where Doom Slayer's inside of a 50-story robot fighting massive demons. I've already got those mechanics, but now I just need to. They're threaded throughout the Spelljammer book that I published. Now I need to bring them forward as like its own separate publication for people, like to highlight it as a thing instead of having it just be inside the Spelljammer mechanics. Actually pull it out as a highlight. Like, this is something you can seriously do. It's super cool. It's really fun to do. So I'll be building a campaign around fighting giants and dragons and stuff while your characters are running around inside of like 50-foot mecha fighting, 100, 200-foot dragons, or like 14th level fighting Tarrasques and Evangelions, stuff like that. But that's what we do. We break how 5e as a game engine up. Like, we kit bash the engine to make different types of adventures to be able to expand how people think about like how 5e can be used in their games. Because you can do literally anything with the 5e engine. You just have to suss out the details, and sussing out details is what I do best. But it is 8 o'clock, so I have to stop for now. That shield is looking good. When we come back, we'll add this modeling effect, and then again we have the fog that overlays everything to create atmospheric distortion. So let's add everybody back in to see the full symbol, to see where we're going. And when this piece is done, we'll shift over and we'll start detailing out all of these artifacts. And most of this adventure is, most of the illustrations in the adventure are instances of the maps that we've already made and the tokens for the NPCs and creatures that we've made that are all included. When you buy the adventure, you get all the maps and all the tokens and all the stuff that goes along with it. So most of those assets we built before starting to do the page layouts. So when I'm off screen, I'm doing page layouts to finish this up. And then on screen, we spend time doing these illustrations because this is just relaxing for me. So I wake up in the morning, I put in an hour or so of artwork to get my creative juices out of the way, and then I go and do number crunching for an ad agency for my day job, and then I either take a lunch break or at the end of my day, I jump back on stream to do more stuff, and then I bounce out for the night and go spend time in the real world, and then I wake up in the morning and come back and do it again. So I just threw my mouse off the side of, there it is, get my mouse. There, I'm back. So that's it for today. I'm going to bounce out. Oh, interesting. Well, yeah, drop into the channel. If this Monday doesn't work out for you, then Saturdays will be coming online pretty soon. Just stick around and keep your finger on the pulse, and when something catches your fancy, speak up, say hey. But great to meet you. Thanks a lot for the time. And anyone else out there, in the future, like, subscribe, blah de blah. Check out my books. See you guys later. I'll be back tonight. I'll be back in about probably 10 hours. So see you guys then. Cheers.